they charged Epstein, but a little bit of like legal trivia. I went there for the press conference and I read the indictment, and the indictment was what you would charge someone if you wanted to create a media narrative that you were prosecuting them, but that under the law would be chicken shit stuff. The lowest thing that you could possibly charge him for, but you could say we're going after him. There's a reason they did it this way. They charged him for paying for massages in his New York apartment through, I think, the period of 2014 to 2016, somewhere in that timeline. Massages in his apartment. That's all they charged him for, the four corners of the indictment. So why did they only charge him for that? Well, there's a reason. He had a place in New Mexico. He had his island. He had his place in Paris. He had another place, I think, in West Palm Beach. And if they had charged him for trafficking, the FBI would have had to simultaneously raid every property under a Mann Act. The Mann Act makes it a crime to transport a woman.
State lines.
Yep. And international too. So he was flying back from Paris and he was flying women, models all over the world, models, you know, not to diminish what he's doing, but that's what's his story. He was flying underage girls and some of age all around the world. Well, what you would do with the SDNY, which as we know, the SDNY, they go after you, you got problems because they charge the most aggressive. They're too aggressive, in fact, in how they charge cases. What you would have charged it if you were concerned with being a prosecutor, you would have charged him under the Mann Act, and under the international version of the Mann Act, you would have simultaneously searched and seized every property, taken all the evidence. Instead, they arrested him, had a little press conference. It was over massages in New York property. They searched the New York property. What was happening in the island? We don't know. What happened to the island? We don't know. Because the FBI said, well, we can't search it because nothing that he was charged with concerned because of course the FBI is very concerned now with due process.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, they're really, you know, we don't want to go overstep our lawful authority, so we can't go raid that island. So they left all these properties unattended. And then that's when the mop-up operation commenced. And they got whatever compromising CDs and DVRs and other information. They got that from the intelligence community, got that from all the properties.
May I ask you to pause for 1 second? So this is happening in 2017? 18?
No, by the time it came to fruition, yeah, now we're in 1819.
Okay, right. So it would have been Bill Barr, the Republican Attorney General, his second time as Attorney General. He would have been aware of all this, correct? Oh,
yeah, I'm not sure if Barr was in at the time. We'd have to double check it, but whoever was AG would absolutely have been aware of it. And I think it was Bill Barr because Bill Barr is the one who said that he watched footage of Epstein committing suicide, and he knows, but we can't watch the footage of Epstein committing suicide. Bill Barr can, but we can't. That's a little sus, right?
Yeah. Right? Well, Bill Barr covered up the murder of Epstein.
Well, clearly, right. But I'm just saying, like, what I like to do, which I found helps me be more persuasive, is I will meet you with what you claim, even when I know it's a lie. So I know that Bill Barr is lying, but I would just, for the sake of argument, accept it is true that Bill Barr saw the video of Epstein killing himself. Well, therefore, you would have to explain why you can't release that video or show it to other people. Because if the video exists, the public would clearly have a right to see it.
That's right.
Or designated trusted intermediaries would.
I'd like to see a matchup of those, call it the top 100 puppet masters on the Epstein client list.
Do you think there's some overlap?
Strong overlap. Strong overlap.
When are we going to see that list, do you think?
I don't know. It's mind-blowing that they've not tried to prosecute even one. Not even the worst offender on the Epstein client list. They've not even tried to prosecute even one. That's insane.
Well, because they have a lot of diabetic grandmothers who were outside the Capitol on January 6th. They're kind of occupied.
Yeah, they've put like whatever 500 or 600 January 6th protesters in prison, and not one person on the Epstein client list.
Will that ever come out, do you think?
You know, I think part of why Kamala is getting so much support is that if Trump wins, that Epstein client list is going to become public.
Yes.
And some of those billionaires behind Kamala are terrified of that outcome.
Yeah. Do you think Reid Hoffman's uncomfortable?
Yes.
Yeah.
And Gates.
And Gates.
Yeah.
And I only ask that because you just look at them and you're like, that's a nervous person right there. I don't know. I mean, I assume you know them. Yeah.
Yes. Reid Hoffman was my vice president of business development at PayPal.
Yeah.
24 years ago.
Does he seem nervous to you?
Yeah, I mean, he's terrified of a Trump victory.
Because of the disclosure that would follow?
I think, yeah, I mean, I think he's certainly ideologically not aligned with Trump anyway, but I think he is concerned about the Epstein situation. Like something might actually, the DOJ might actually move forward.
There are a lot of videos, apparently. Those rooms on the island, and I think out in New Mexico, were wired for video.
Right.
And
where's the video? I mean, between Diddy and Epstein, there's probably several thousand hours of footage here.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
kind of weird that the people on those videos are lecturing the rest of us about our moral failings, isn't it?
Yeah, it's weird.
What is that?
Well, I mean, part of how they deflect attention from themselves is by, criticizing the morals of others.
Yes.
So it's sort of like a preemptive moral strike.
Do you think your brother killed himself?
Not now. No. When I first heard he was dead from suicide, I had no reason to doubt it, so I accepted that. But then after the autopsy and after Bill Barr made that asinine statement, I said, this was not a suicide.
But when you first heard the news, you thought it was a possibility that he killed himself.
Yeah, I accepted it as a fact. I heard it on the news. The government didn't notify me, as they said. I heard it on CNN in the morning of the 10th.
And you're his only survivor. You're the only surviving relative.
Yes, yes. He has no children and our parents are gone. And there's no other siblings.
When did you start to think that he did not kill himself?
Well, after the autopsy and both pathologists, the city pathologist and Dr. Barden, came out of the autopsy and they said, this doesn't look like a suicide. It looks more like a homicide.
So what did you do then?
Well, I figured I'd have to look into this and see what's going on.
Were you shocked that he might have been killed?
It came as a surprise, yeah.
So as his only surviving relative, what did you do to find out what happened to him?
Well, I started to inquire about what took place. The Justice Department was supposedly investigating. The initial death certificate said pending when it said cause of death, which means pending further investigation.
Yes.
So, but then a few days later, it was declared a suicide by the chief pathologist, who was not at the autopsy. And the questions became, what investigation was done in such a short period of time to make her determine it was a suicide? Or was she basing it on Bill Barr's statement?
When you sleep better, you live better, you feel better, and you live longer. Sleep is really important, but there's a lot acting against us who are trying to get a good sleep, starting with screen time. It scrambles your brain, makes it hard to sleep. So we're thinking a lot about sleep, not getting as much as we should. So a new partner we want to tell you about can help you. It's called Beam's Dream Powder, and it's made with a blend of all natural ingredients. It's not made by Pfizer. It's science-backed, it's American-built and run, and best of all, it legitimately tastes good. It can help you fall asleep, stay asleep, and wake up feeling amazing. Everybody in the staff loves it. No more tossing and turning during the night. No more groggy wake-ups, desperate for the coffee. We're not the only ones who use it. So many people have used Beam that has improved over 17.5 million nights of sleep. They're keeping track, helping Americans from all over the country wake up feeling good and ready to go. We're getting a huge discount, 47% off for this show. Try their best-selling Dream Power. Get 47% off for a limited time. Go to shopbeam.com, shopbeam.com/Tucker. Use the code Tucker at checkout and get a massive discount. We can't recommend this enough. Everyone here loves it. We think you will also. It's an American company, by the way. Awesome. Would you be shocked to learn that Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself?
No. I mean, how many Jeffrey Epstein type people are out there?
Well, that's right.
That's the real question.
You mean people who've been killed, or people who are using sex as a blackmail tool?
That.
Yep.
And then who's pulling the strings on that?
Any guesses?
But Ghislaine Maxwell has a lot of ties to the Mossad.
Yep.
That would make sense. I mean, Jeffrey didn't seem to get some of the appointments he was given in the prominence based on merit. Somebody was putting him in the right spots. But I don't think he's the only one. I think there's a problem, a weird, bizarre problem, really, that has a weird sex component to it with some of the elites. And there's a pedophile component to it as well. which is really sick. And there's, some prominent figures, who are in the spotlight as of late. I would like that to be exposed. But Jeffrey Epstein had the goods on everybody. So there were a lot of people that didn't want him to be alive. And then the whole, wild story around, multiple people being asleep and, him not being watched at the time is real convenient. And I just don't believe in that many coincidences.
No. He was murdered in federal detention in Manhattan. I don't think there's any question about that. And people lied about it, including the then Attorney General of the United States, Barr.
I think there's some weird correlations between and anomalies that, the Johnny Depp trial had eyes on it, crazy coverage, and the Ghislaine Maxwell trial had next to no coverage, no TV coverage, no nightly commentary about it, no traffic to nobody. I mean, they literally she is indicted for trafficking kids, and nobody who she was trafficking kids to got indicted.
Or named.
Yeah.
So what's interesting is that the Attorney General of the United States at the time, Attorney General Barr, said publicly and then wrote in his memoir that he had concluded conclusively that this was a suicide based on two pieces of evidence. One, the medical examiner, the person who performed the autopsy, declared it a suicide, which is a lie. That didn't happen. And two, because he had viewed the videotape at the entrance to the tier, to the cell block where your brother was being held. What do you make of that explanation?
Well, when I heard Barr's statement that he said he personally saw the videotape and he concluded it was a suicide because nobody went in or out, that's when it hit me that he's covering this up, because there's two sort of fallacies in that. One, I thought, why is the Attorney General of the United States, who I imagine to be a busy guy, why is he personally watching the videotape? Couldn't he have two people in his office watch the videotape and say, hey, Bill, nobody went in or out? Wouldn't that suffice? And two, to assume that somebody could get to that door, go inside, kill somebody, get out completely undetected is just ridiculous, because I believe there are 6 levels of security before you get to that door. So to assume that somebody could do it that way is crazy. And any third-rate investigator will tell you that there was anywhere from 7 to 14 people on the other side of that door, on the tier, that could have killed somebody.
Right.
And I had been told from another source, I've been getting a lot of information from all sources, that cell doors were left unlocked that night. I don't know how many cell doors or whose cell doors, but if cell doors were left unlocked, then somebody could have went into Jeff's cell, killed him, went back into their cell, undetected. Now, in the Justice Department report, it says that from 3 cells, you could see Jeff's cell door. But if you look at the photographs of the tier, there's tiny windows in the cell doors. So in order to see Jeff's cell door from another cell, you'd have to be standing at that window inside the other cells in the middle of the night looking towards Jeff's cell. And if somebody crept low beneath the height of that window, you wouldn't see them. So the fact that, to say that he could be seen from 3 other cells and they didn't see anything, well, chances are the other prisoners were sleeping in those cells if they had nothing to do with it. So again, it's just like a cover-up line.
Right. So in other words, the Attorney General said that nobody moved on to the cell block according to the videotape, but that is irrelevant, because if your brother was murdered, he was almost certainly murdered by someone who was already on the cell block.
Exactly.
Right. So given that, and it's obvious and logical when you think about it for about 10 seconds, the identities of the other inmates on that cell block are critical. Your brother was alone in his cell.
Right.
So any one of those inmates could have killed your brother. Do we know who they were?
No, I can't find out who they were. There were 7 other cells, each with 1 or 2 people in them.
Yes.
Which means it's either anywhere from 7 to 14 people, other than my brother, on the tier that night. I don't know who they are, or I know one, that guy Tattaglione, who was Jeff's cellmate for a while. He was there, and he was there for a long time. So if Jeff was killed, it's a possibility that somebody was planted in there. Cell doors were left unlocked. And then from what I understand, a number of prisoners were transferred off of that tier after the death. So if somebody was planted, he killed Jeff, and a day or 2 later he's transferred out, and he disappears into the ether. I don't know who the prisoners were. I'd like to find out who they are and where are they now.
As we've kind of learned like a bit from the Jeffrey Epstein thing. And, you know, I guess we're, you know, so we find out that there's this child pedophile blackmail ring that was pretty clearly involved a foreign country. And it's going around compromising political leaders and influential people. And I guess we're supposed to pretend like that must have been the only one. And it's over now. I mean, we never got to the bottom of it. And sure, all of the cameras malfunctioned and the guy, you know, committed suicide, and we never get the client lists and we never get any of this information.
The sitting Attorney General of the United States, Barr, covered it up, lied to cover it up, which he did.
Yep, that's right.
And I've said that a bunch of times, and every time he tells someone I know that, you know, that's outrageous, he complains, and I hope he'll sue me over that because it's true.
Let's go to discovery.
100%. Barr lied about it.
Right. And so, okay.
But why? What was that?
Right. Well, that's the big question. And then, like, what is still going on? I mean, obviously there were people above Jeffrey Epstein involved in it. And obviously if you were doing something like that, you wouldn't only have one. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
And so it does at least make you wonder, like, oh, is it possible that obviously people who can be blackmailed are very easy to control. And so, why would it be that there are so many people in powerful positions who have these secret, weird personal lives? And I think plausibly part of that explanation is because, like, well, okay, then they're very easy to blackmail. You can control them.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. We hope you'll subscribe to it. And by the way, you can hit the little bell on there and get notifications every time we produce a video. We hope you'll do that also.